Yeah. Welcome everyone. Okay, so we're going to start. We are on the chapter of understanding your spouse. That's the chapter we're holding by. And today we're going to discuss a very interesting topic. Today we're going to discuss the concept, the idea that how we see things. This is a very fascinating topic. The subtitle goes like this: see things from your spouse's point of view. To do chesed, to prevent distress and pain, and to avoid quarrels. Basically, what happens to many of us, all of us, I should say, really all of us, whenever something happens, anything happens, we see things through our own eyes. Whatever we see through our own eyes gets processed in our brain. The way our brain is going to process it is going to be through our previous experiences or beliefs or ideas or stories that were shared with us in the past. Whatever in the past we lived through, experienced, decided that that's the way it is, when it's going to happen now, we're going to judge it or process it or view it according to that. Let's say, if I see a beautiful wrapped candy, I'm going to assume, wow, that candy looks so good. Guess what? Maybe it's foam inside. But because from my experience, I know that inside that pretty wrap, there is a sweet candy, so I will assume that it's something sweet inside. Why? Because it's based on my previous experience. So what could make us view something a certain way? It could be our own experiences. It could be our parents' relationship, the way your parents behaved with each other. It could even be through whatever your mother complained about your father. Sometimes a father says certain things about their spouse, and we believe it. Maybe they were not right. We believe it, and then the moment our spouse will say the same thing, boom, we're going to process it and view it the way our mother said it. Okay? A person that grew up in a home where birthdays were celebrated, and then she would expect her birthday to be celebrated. And if her husband doesn't remember to mention to bring a gift, she might be very insulted. Why? Because she comes from a place where if you didn't do anything for my birthday, it must be that you hate me. But that's not necessarily so in someone else's life. So I hope I explained this a little bit, that basically we always see things from our point of view. It is a natural tendency to perceive our own point of view as the actual reality of the situation. That's the sad part, that when we see things through our point of view, we are sure that that's a fact. we don't give it even the benefit of the doubt that maybe it is not the fact. What do you mean? That's what happened. That is what happened. What do you mean? We're so sure that that's what happened. But we don't realize that it could be that that's not what happened. The only problem is that every other person in the world will see things differently. So I see things and I say, for sure, this is what I saw. And somebody else's might say that he saw something different. With varying levels of discrepancy, to understand the dynamics of any marriage situation, it is necessary to enter the mind of both parties. Why? Because the husband only knows what's in his mind firsthand, and the wife the same way. So they really each need to understand the other from the other's perspective. You know, this is something very important. My husband, people come to him for Shalom Bayit. He would never, never, never tell a person, I think you're right. He would say, he might say, according to what you're saying, it sounds that you're right, but I really need to hear the other side. Because that's according to what you're saying. It's according to the picture that you're painting. But unless you hear the other side, you really don't have the picture. Not that you don't have the entire picture. You don't have the picture, period. You don't have the picture, period, if you didn't hear the other side. So now, it is very important for each one of us to learn to try to understand where my spouse is coming from. And this is, you're going to do him a favor or her a favor, but guess who the person who will benefit the most would be? You yourself. When you try to understand, where does my spouse come from? What were my spouse's previous experiences? Why does he do this? You know, some people might say, oh, because he likes to hurt me, because he likes to insult me. So if that's what we say and we decide that that's what it is, then it will cause a very big problem of Shalom Bayit. That's why when you go to a third party, the third party can say to the other side, and now you tell me your side of the story. And then that third party, which might be the Rav, might be the marriage counselor, might be a good friend, may say, it sounds like you're not really understanding each other. And then he might be able to bring them to understand each other. But guess what? We could try to do that ourselves. We really could try to want to understand, where is my spouse coming from? It doesn't mean that I agree with what he says. See, some people don't want to go there because they're afraid that if they're going to say, oh, I understand where he's coming from, that means he's right. No, it could be that I understand why he's coming from, the reason why he did not celebrate my birthday. Still, it's not what I want, and I want it changed. But if I understand where it's coming from, that it's not because he's mean and he wants to hurt me, then it's going to be so much easier to work on changes. So each one needs to understand the other from the other's perspective. Because if we don't try to do that, if we only try to see things through our own vision, then we may be very off the mark. Now, we really could, and this is maybe what Chazal say when they say, Heved dan et kol ha'adam lekav zkut, judge everyone favorably. Judging someone favorably doesn't mean you agree with what they did. You see someone doing Chilul Shabbat. You don't agree with it. You're not supposed to agree with it. But you could understand that they're coming from a place that this is very hard for them, that they don't know any better. If they would have known, they wouldn't do this, etc. Okay, so to judge them favorably, and this is why many people are afraid to judge the other one favorably, because they think that if I judge them favorably, that means that I accept it. No, it doesn't have to be that. We could judge the other one favorably, love them dearly, even though they're doing something that I would like changed. But when I love them dearly and I understand where they're coming from, then it is much more possible that we would be able to communicate properly and come to a place where the spouse might be willing to hear you. See, when a person, let's say, if I speak to someone and I feel like he's understanding me, I'm going to open up a lot more. And once I feel that they really understand me, and I really feel like I explained the way I feel, and they heard me, now if the person is going to come and tell me, Abigail, my dear, I really feel your pain. I understand where you're coming from. I think if you do this differently, that might help you. What are the chances that I'm going to listen to them rather than if they tell me, I don't know what you're saying. You're so wrong. You got everything wrong. Everything you're saying, it doesn't make any sense. You really have to change the way you're doing things. Imagine, compare script 1 with script 2. If I'm being told script 1, chances of listening and changing the way I do things are much greater than if I'm told script 2. Even though, guess what? Script 1 and script 2 are both the same. It's just that the person says and really understood where I'm coming from, and still he thought I was wrong. You heard that, right? I hear you. I understand where you're coming from. I truly understand your pain, but you're making a mistake. You should do this differently. And if you will do this differently, you won't have to go through this pain. But if I'm told you're off, you're wicked, a person will shut, won't hear you anymore. So that's why it is so important to honestly understand where your spouse is coming from. And again, understanding where they come from doesn't mean you're accepting what is happening. It doesn't mean that from now on, you're not going to ask for changes. But rather, when you understand where they're coming from and you say, I understand why this is difficult for you, then there is more what to talk about. There is communication, and therefore there is an opportunity for things to get fixed. Okay. Lack of seeing things from another person's point of view increases the quantity and intensity of arguments. It increases anger and resentments. This is especially problematic when someone has a tendency to view the other person's view in a very negative way, and then considers here his or her thoughts on the matter to be the actual reality. I'll give you examples. When a wife says, I know why you do this, because your sister told you to. And the poor man says, I did not discuss this with my sister. No, I know it's your sister. So now what does the husband think? What happens in his head? She hates my sister, and I have no say. Even if I want to do something, she jumps at my family, and I'm miserable. I'm so misken that I married this woman who hates my lovely sister and my family, and therefore she probably hates me too. How sad. If she wouldn't, I'm not going to say if she wouldn't say that, because that doesn't really help so much. It helps not to say it. But really, we shouldn't think that, because guess what? Thinking that doesn't get you anywhere good. And guess what? Chances are you're wrong anyways. So instead, try to understand, why is he really saying that? I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, that the sister tells him what to think and what to do. I'm not going to say it doesn't exist. These things unfortunately exist too. And even if it exists, a smart woman would not say that. Why? Because then you get into arguments. So, or people who like to say, oh, that's because he loves putting me down. You know, sometimes one person doesn't even consider that maybe I'm the one insulting my spouse. And whenever the spouse says something not nice, they only hear what they were saying. It's very interesting that many times when I have a conversation with a couple, so let's say Roberta, okay? She says, yeah, he told me I'm stupid and he told me I'm nasty. And I say, really, you said that to her? And he said, yeah, that's after she cursed my mother. But she forgot that that's what she said before. And that's what came after. And if you would ask her, and why do you think he told you you're stupid? Because he loves putting me down. So you don't have the entire story. It is, if we really care about our Shalom Bayit, we have to step outside a little bit. Think what you would see, what you would think if you were the marriage counselor. What would you be hearing? What you would be seeing? How would you process things? And when you would do that, you're going to be in a much, much better place, much better place. You know, if you go to a marriage counselor, that as soon as you open your mouth, they're going to shut you and put you down. What are the chances you would want to go back to that marriage counselor? Probably zero, right? The same thing between husband and wife. If one starts explaining and talking and they get yelled at and put down, they're not going to want to talk again. And then the one who wants to talk says, but why don't you talk? What is he going to say? Because I'm scared to talk, because it's very uncomfortable to talk, because we cannot talk without cursing, because we cannot talk without putting down, and therefore I don't want to be part of this conversation. So it is so important that we should step out a little bit of our position and our where we come from, and look at the things from the point of view of our spouse. Because if we do that, we're opening a huge door for a better life. When you master the ability to see things from the other person's point of view, you will be more compassionate and understanding. You will also do more chesed. You will save yourself and the other person from experiencing distress and pain. You will avoid many fights. It is important to keep in mind that with my spouse's life history, what does this mean to him or to her? Or with my life's history, what does this mean to me? You know, there is a story in the Gemara about a man that came from, I believe it was from Syria. And he married a woman that did not speak his language. And one day he told her, go get me a candle. And because of the language barrier, she went and she got, no, I think he told her, get me a watermelon, something. And she went, she got something different. She got candles. And no, sorry, I know. He asked her for candles, she brought a watermelon. So he got angry, he got upset. And he says, okay, go break it by the door. Because back then they would throw the watermelon to crack it. But when he said by the door, he said, I'm the Baba. Baba meant door in his language. And she was from a different place where the Gadol Hador, the rabbi, the biggest rabbi, his name was Baba Ben Buta. So she said, okay, my husband told me to go break it on Baba. She went to the Bet Midrash and she breaks it on the head of the Gadol Hador. And all the students wanted to yell, to kick her, and Baba says, no, bring her over. And he says to her, Biti, my daughter, why did you do this? And she said, because my husband told me to. And he told her, because you did what your husband told you, you will be blessed. I bless you with 2 sons that will light up the eyes of Am Israel like me. And she was zocheh to that. What did the Rav do? Instead of getting upset with her, he went to see where is she coming from. Now everyone says that this is an example of Isha Kshera Osa Retzon Ba'ala, and because she listened to her husband, that's why she deserved to have children that are tzaddikim like that. My father, Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Livracha, used to say that it was the husband who deserved to have children tzaddikim like that because he was willing to live with such a stupid woman. And he bared with it all the years because it's not easy to live with a person that doesn't get it. And he had the patience for her. So whichever way we look at it, you see that having the patience and wanting to live in peace and harmony, she brought him one thing, not what he asked for. He says, okay, now go do that with it. He didn't say, why did you do this? He got upset. He says, okay, go break it. So this is a very important thing, to understand where the other person is coming from, and to understand that, and I tell this to ladies all the time, you want to get divorced, you're allowed to. According to Halacha, according to Jewish law, we have the concept of divorce. But if you're not going to get divorced, then your duty is to make the best of it. You can't say, therefore, this is my lot. No, if you're staying married, you're going to turn your marriage into Gan Eden. And yes, it is in your power. No such thing as I'm going to stay and suffer. Don't do anyone a favor, don't stay. If you're going to stay, you're going to make it good. And yes, you could do it. And this is what we're learning today, something super important, to be able to turn things into a pleasant heaven instead of Gehenna. How? By seeing where the other person is coming from. Maybe what you say watermelon, the other person hears candles. And therefore there is no reason to fight. You just have to learn his language. And if you would learn his language, there would not be a problem. The barrier is a language, and sometimes people could talk the same language, but they come from different expectations, from different homes. And therefore, when the word birthday comes, to one means, oh, it's your birthday? Oh, Mazel Tov, how nice. That's how it is by me. Even to my children, I grew up without it really, birthday was not important. And for some people, it's the biggest insult. It's the biggest insult. How could you not remember my birthday? It means you really don't care for me. To me, when I'm in bed and it's 11 o'clock at night and my husband woke up 4 o'clock in the morning and he finally drugs himself ready to go to bed, and I'm in bed already 4 hours resting, and I say, oh, I'm so thirsty. And he says, you want me to, I'll go get you a cup of water. And I say, no, it's okay. No, I'll go and get you a cup of water. That to me is more than a birthday present. Because you could say, oh, it's okay, you're not so thirsty, right? It's okay. Thank you, because I'm really tired. But he doesn't do that. Now, I'm not doing it to give credit to myself, because I don't think I deserve credit for this. But any person could say, so what if you got me a cup of water? We could choose to see the good, and we could choose to see what the other one is not important for, and for me is important, and make that what counts. Who is going to suffer? I will suffer. If I will be stubborn to value what I believe has value, and whatever my husband values, I don't value, I'll be miserable. But if I would value what he values, then I will see the beauty in things. You know, for some people, they know how to say, I love you so much, and give compliments and say nice things. And they don't really mean so much. They don't mean it. They just know how to. And for the other one, it's so hard. And when they say, you are so good, it came from the bottom of their heart. But the woman who came from a house that she was so used to compliment might say, finally, he said, you're so good. That's all he knows how to say. She's not paying attention where he's coming from. And therefore, instead of treasuring that, and that should give her so much simcha and joy, and has no value. You know, when a baby 6 months old says, ba, 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 how much we dance and we say, oh, it's a look, ma, 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 ooh. Why? Because we value it. If we would value each other, and where the other one comes from, and what to them means a lot, then we would be happier people. If we're happier people and we appreciate our spouse, then our spouse would be happier too. And then he would appreciate us too. So this is really a recipe for a better marriage, a happier marriage. When there is strife in a marriage, both sides suffer. Each partner experiences his or her own suffering. And then some people say, yeah, but you are the one who is causing me pain. You don't even care. There is no such thing. If you're suffering, he is suffering too. If she's suffering, he is suffering too, and vice versa. There is no such thing as one is suffering and the other one painless. Because if one spouse is not happy, there is no way that the other one is going to be happy. There is no way. And therefore, there is no point in saying, I'm the only one who is suffering in this relationship, because it cannot be. This is how Rav Eliyahu Dessler, a master of understanding people, put it. Develop the habit of seeing other people as they see themselves. You see, not only about spouse, but everyone. All anger, all hatred, all arguments arise because a person views the situation from his own perspective and fails to see himself from the viewpoint of the other person. For example, he brings this example. Imagine a poor person. It happens in the shul. People get the names of the rich people and they come and they say, give me a donation. And the rich person, maybe last month he gave a donation to someone, a bigger donation because that month he made more money, or because he just liked the person or whatever. And the rich man gives him $20 and he says, no, you need to give me 100. Why are you giving me just 20? And the rich says, excuse me. And the poor one says, but what do you mean? You're able to give me 100. Hashem blessed you with so much. How come you don't want to share it? What's going to be? They're both going to leave angry. Why? Because the poor man refused to see that the rich man says, it's my money and I don't owe you anything. And for whatever the reason today, I cannot give, either because I'm not in the mood or because I don't have the money or whatever it is. But you cannot tell me that I'm obligated to give it to you. And the poor man cannot see it in any other way. Not that that's the way it should be. I'm just saying it happens. What do you mean? I'm poor and Hashem gave you for you to give me. And therefore, I deserve it. They're both going to be upset. So this is what happens when people refuse to understand. And then you have the poor man that comes humbly and says, would you please? And if the rich man says, I can't give you more than this, he says, I understand, maybe a different time. Thank you for what you gave me. Then the rich person might want to give him more even. Why? Because he was not nasty to him. So a lot of the bad feelings come because we don't see the other person the way he sees himself. And we have to try to understand, how does he see the situation? How does he view what is happening now? Seeing things from the other person's points of view will have a profound effect on your personality. Since all traits that deal with how we relate to others are dependent upon this concept, this is very important, not just about the spouse, but this trait of being able to see where the other one is coming from, like Chazal tell us, Ad shetagia limkomo, you cannot judge someone else until you reach his place. You will find it easier to master this when you realize how beneficial it is for your happiness and your success in life to have many people love you and care about you. Because guess what? If you understand where the other one is coming from, and the other person feels understood by you, he's going to love you. He's going to love you for understanding him. And you're going to be surrounded by people that love you. When you master the ability to view others as they see themselves, you will gain the love of everyone. So when we relate to other people, we don't have to only think about where they're coming from, but we also have to keep in mind their emotions, how they feel, and so many other things to really understand where they're coming from. The Vilna Gaon emphasized on the importance of seeing things from another person's point of view when you communicate with someone who is different from you. When talking to someone who thinks very differently than you, especially when this person is being irrational, enter the other person's world and answer him according to his lines of reasoning. Let's say you're talking to a 3-year-old and you have to convince that kid to take medicine. Are you going to explain to that 3-year-old what the medicine does, what it says in the small letters on the box? Obviously not. You're going to just tell him, take it, it's going to make your tummy not hurt anymore. Because that's what the kid can understand. So whenever we have to explain things to someone, that's part of understanding where they're coming from, that we're going to answer them, talk to them in the language that they can relate to and understand. Shlomo HaMelech even says, answer the stupid guy according to his stupidity. And to the stubborn, treat him with stubbornness. Like each person, treat him according to who he is. If you're going to say, this is me, okay, so you'll stay you and he'll stay him, but you're not going to have peace and harmony. Now, another thing that we should keep in mind, different people might act the same way. Let's say Sarah and Rachel are good friends and they're talking, and one says, yes, my husband came home so late last night and I didn't know why. And Rachel tells her, your husband came so late? I know why, just like my husband, he was in Beis Medrash learning. But guess what? Sarah's husband was playing cards. He wasn't learning, and he was not in Bet Midrash. He was gambling somewhere. So people might be late, but for different reasons. People might yell for different reasons. One might yell because he sees someone drowning, and the other one might yell because a bee bit him, and one might yell because he just yells about everything. And the problem is that sometimes people are so sure that they know the reason. They're sure that if he came late, it's because he was gambling. Why? Because that's what her father used to do. And that's not a good thing to do. Don't assume things because that was your previous experiences. Keep in mind that many different people, you'll show them the same thing and they'll say it's something else. For example, some people who are controlling do so in order to be protective and caring. And that's why they're controlling, because they take control. They actually do. Some do so because they're certain that they are always right and they're the smartest and they know how to do things. So that's why they have to take care of everything, because they believe that they're the best at everything. And then there are people who really do it because they like to feel in control. And that's why they're controlling. Now, if your spouse is controlling and you don't like it, it's good for you to understand why they're trying to be controlling. Because if you understand where it is coming from, it's going to be easier for you to get to understand and to explain to your spouse why sometimes he should let you make the decisions or take care of things. But if you think that that's because he's just nasty and likes to be controlling, then you're not going to be able to come to an agreement. If he thinks that he's really being caring and loving and that's why he likes to do it, and you say, that's so sweet of you, but this time I would like to do it, it would make me feel good, then he's going to let you do it. And you just judge him unfairly by saying he is just a controlling person. And if he is a person that needs to feel in control and be in control, so then you have to be a smart woman and see how to give him the feeling that he's in control, even though you led him to make the decision he made. So you feed him what you want, rather than tell him what you want, or tell him that that's the way it's going to be. You just learn how to feed the information and then make him feel like he made the decision, if that's his need. So we have to understand where it is coming from. To influence your spouse, see the situation from his or her point of view. Why should he or she want to do or stop doing something? Keep in mind that when your spouse will feel that you care and he's being heard and understood, then most probably your spouse would be happy to listen to you. But if they feel like they're being judged without compassion, then they're not going to be willing to listen. And that's when you get these monsters. Why? Because they probably don't have good communication skills, so they cannot come and tell you, why are you treating me like this? So they just turn into monsters. Did I explain this clear enough, or should I, or you have questions? Okay, when two people disagree strongly about a matter, they both have a better chance of being given a hearing by the other when the other feels understood from his or her point of view. That's what I just told you. Okay, so the goal is for both parties in a disagreement to do the same as a third party would do. What does a third party do? What does the third party do? Listens to both sides. and listens carefully to the other side. And that's what we should learn to do, to listen to the other side. Okay, the last thing we're going to discuss tonight is that sometimes a spouse denies what he did. You know what, I'm looking at the watch, it's already late. I'm going to put my bookmark here and we will continue Bezrat Hashem next time, which is probably maybe after Sukkot. I don't even know when we're going to have class again. But I guess we will stop here because it's late and it will take much longer. So good night, everyone. Shana Tova, Ktiva v'Chatima Tova. Have a good year of Shalom Bayit, of Simcha, of Brachot, good health, Parnasa Tova, all the best for you and for all Am Yisrael, wherever we are.
Amen. Thank you, Rebbitzin. Shana Tova, Chatima Tova. Thank you for everything that you do.
My
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much.
Shana Tova. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Rebbitzin. Shana Tova.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Shana Tova מבורכת. כל טוב בחיים. תודה רבה לך. תודה רבה לך את כל מה שאת עושה.
תודה, תודה. שנה טובה, all the best.
אמן.
שנה טובה, רבקה.